It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We're all business, except when we're not. And, I still like to say we take an entertaining look at the world.
Savvy side of 9 to 5.
Savvy side of 9 to 5 is there, too. You can catch our weekly broadcast. If you go to focusgroupradio.com, there's a number of different platforms there where you can choose to listen to us. Pretty much anywhere you can download media or watch it now, because we're on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Focus Group Radio. You can see our new shows, which are released every Saturday. And now we're also going to be releasing shows and specials on Wednesdays. When appropriate. If you'd like to give us a call, be sure to call us and leave a message. And if you have a question for us, we'd be happy to answer it here on air. Our phone number is 914-FOCUS-GR. That's 914-FOCUS-GR. Or as John says, 914-FOCUS-GR, which is 914-362-8747. And all of our social media is branded Focus Group Radio. So please subscribe to us, like us, or rate us, because we need it.
So I just figured out that acronym. So we're using
like and rate.
Yeah, you're right, and it's SLR. But you know what? It took me a second because it's been a long time. So it's a camera.
The SLR camera?
It stands for single lens reflex. So now I know from now on SLR. Subscribe, like, rate. SLR.
Now you got it. Now
I got it.
If that's how you remember, John, that's good. Who's
like a child. Is that how you remember? Oh, how cute. That's very nice.
Who's on the show today on this 4th of July? It's 4th of July weekend, by the way. Happy 4th. Who's on our show today?
We're going to be welcoming Eugene Cornelius Jr. He's a Deputy Associate Administrator, Office of Field Operations for the U.S. Small Business Administration. I think you and I just say the SBA. SBA. He's going to be talking to us about some interesting programs that they have put into place that are taking hold in some cities to include LGBT businesses as part of their outreach for working with government. And as a government contractor, you could go and bid on jobs and stuff like that. I
will say that I was, and why I'm interested also with him is I was a bit naive as to everything SBA does. I was actually pretty amazed at all the work. And there was a list of companies that they've helped from when they were small, because all companies start small.
Start small, yeah.
But everyone from FedEx to Under Armour to Chobani has gone through help with the SBA, whether it's getting loans or assistance in marketing and getting your product to market. So the fact that they've added this.
Going to the SBA?
Well,
did you think of a reason why we should be SBAing?
Well, we need a $2 million loan. Get a studio. Don't you think?
Well, if you're going to go to them for a loan, why are you stopping at 2? Geometrically, say it's 4. We need 4.
Yeah,
it's government. It's government.
Well, I was just going to say
government.
One of the representative now where I live just got indicted, Shaka Fatah.
Yep.
In Philadelphia
for
having his hand in the kitty. So if we were going to do it, we probably should have done it then.
Yeah.
They'll be extra careful now. But this group is nonpartisan, so it's not like that as far as we know. So how was so 4th of July? Are you doing any barbecues or fireworks or anything like that?
Yeah, we will be having our friends Trace and Christine up at the house, and as usual. In our neighborhood, I don't know where they get them or how they get them, but our neighbors have some pretty impressive fireworks. So often we just sit in the backyard and look over the trees, and boom, they get all the good ones.
And they're harder to get than an assault weapon. So
I shouldn't laugh.
No, it's true.
I shouldn't even
it's harder to get fireworks than an assault weapon.
But where would you go? New Hampshire or Virginia or something like? Where I don't even know where they go for fireworks.
Someone in the audience said New Hampshire. I do know that on the way to South Carolina when I was driving, you could get some, and I wanted to stop, and Richard just made a face, and we wouldn't stop.
Bob's wanted to get one of those kits.
Yeah,
you get a kit, and
Roman candles. And
it has X amount of this and X amount of that, and So that's what we'll be doing, and
if I'd known that, I'd have stopped and got a kit for Bob.
And
when I was in South
maybe in the
Carolina.
next time you do it. And you can't order these things online either. You
No,
have to
no, no,
physically
no.
get it, put it in the car, and drive with it. Yeah.
It's like trying to get pot out of Colorado, right? You can't order it online. Can you ship it? No.
No, but there's a new. I bet you, if you were someone who hung out at the airport and just dumpster dove all day, you'd get weed like no one's business, right? John? Our tech John is like, yeah, that's the way. I mean,
people are
I
doing
catch my
it.
flight,
But people are doing longer layovers.
Well,
because
yeah.
the pot dispensary is right outside the airport. You could do a 2-hour, 3-hour layover and get there. They're not going to check your bag.
I'll tell you. Let me tell you this. Okay. So years ago, I was in Amsterdam with Bob, and I went to the Milk Vog, I think was the name of the bar, and I bought some pot. And they have a little box that opens up, and there's a menu printed on it, and it's all very. Everybody's, oh, hello, hello, oh, try this, you'll like that, like all above the board. Yeah, I had a little bit, walked around, did our museums, whatever. But as the end of the trip, as the trip was ending, I didn't have as much as I ever thought I would, and there's this bag, and I thought, I think I'll mail it home to myself.
Oh, you dummy.
Okay, so we bought 2 cards, and Bob, who doesn't do that, but doesn't mind, pulverized. I mean, he pulverized. He crushed that down, and he put it in a plastic thing, put it in the cards, so it was nice and flat. Both cards went in different mailboxes. Only one made it to the U.S. So I suspect that at least in a country like that, there's a German Shepherd sitting very patiently on a little mail line.
Shipping pot from Amsterdam is like shipping an 8-ball from Colombia. I mean, do you really think they haven't seen this before? Ooh, we're going to put it in a card.
Oh, those Americans are so clever. Wish you would get better soon, or get well soon, and there's pot inside.
What caught your eye this week?
Okay, what caught my eye is actually a graphical in nature.
graphic?
It's graphics, plural. So about a week or two ago, the NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, our space agency, commissioned a series of posters. They actually started doing this back in about 2009 for a variety of things, but they commissioned a range of them to attract future astronauts and people interested in going to Mars. And here is some of the posters. So they did it in this kind of I want to call it a WPA, World War II style almost, but very kind of sci-fi. Like one of them has an astronaut pointing right at you and it says, "We need you." And another one says, "Mars Explorers Wanted." And I think there's a couple more I put up here. Yeah, some assembly required. And I think they're just fun graphics. I like them.
Were they serious?
They're dead serious. You could download. Well,
why not say, come try the electric chair? I mean, that's a death sentence.
Jeez Louise.
Right?
I think there's one last pair before we give it. The surveyors wanted, farmers wanted. I'm trying to keep this as fun and it excites kids.
You're going to Mars. You're going to die. What are you going to do up there?
Okay. All right. So we're not going anytime soon. We're making plans to go, and these are just to excite kids and get people interested in space travel. If you could come back.
You can't.
Well, no, then I'm not going to go. I mean, but if you could do like a round trip and visit the Red Planet and come back and,
It's the Wizard of Oz on steroids. And you don't wake up. You go to Mars, and that's that.
Well, there was was it Elon Musk who was trying to do a Mars thing? I think that they had a record number of people apply for the slot to actually go to Mars, and they know that it's a one-way trip. And they're not... I happen to like walking out my front door and breathing air.
I mean, Vegas is bad enough. You go in there, you can't breathe.
No, I'll go to Mars. I'll just go to the MGM Grand. That's Mars enough, right?
Jeez.
You got to pick a different hotel. What is a Mars-like hotel out there when you think about it? Barren, old, like something that you want if you don't want to be trapped in. What would you not want to be trapped in Vegas?
Circus.
And the clown says it all. Done deal. All right. So what caught your?
Mine couldn't be any more different. It says, so the headline here, this was just in the Philadelphia newspaper, or Philadelphia Inquirer. It says, want to stop workplace harassment, try a little civility. And it said, among the findings of this new federal report, said that boring workplaces can breed harassment because employees are looking for a diversion.
Now, you chose 2 pictures. If you're watching YouTube, This guy's getting like a creepy back rub from
another guy, and look at his face. So 6 out of 10. So why I did that was they in light of Orlando, they've dug a little deeper into the study, and they found that 6 out of 10 LGBT workers experienced derogatory comments on their sexual orientation, and more than half of the transgender employees also report being harassed at work. So they said in some cases it's physical, in some cases it's sexual or innuendo. And they said that this is the latest stats from a 95-page federal report that was released at the end of June. They said there's no question that there's bias against the LGBT community in the workplace. And they said that, and then one step beyond, as well as 6 in 10 LGBTs, also 6 in 10 women also say, so 60% of the women say they experience
I'm not surprised
gender
by that
harassment.
stat.
No?
No. Hasn't that been always the case?
Well, they said that...
Go back to Mad Men.
Right.
You know, they recreated that for TV. I mean, whoa.
They said one of the issues they've begun to realize is that a lot of the HR policies, which are heavy on platitudes and generalities and language...
I like that generalities one. It is totally heavy on
they're just cover your ass.
Yeah,
So
CYA.
it's right. There's nothing to do with really going to the issue. And they said that employees need to see that when complaints are made, that they are addressed, and that powerful superstar employees aren't hid. Because a lot of times, if discipline is excused, if somebody is a great performer or somebody is well liked. So they said, and it doesn't also mean you have to fire the person, but you should have a culture where it's okay to say something like that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For not fear that it's, they said these zero tolerance policies are really making the workplace even that much more uncomfortable because you're afraid you might say something. You might say something that culturally you didn't know was offensive, and you didn't mean any harm by it.
We were just talking about this when we were out in California 2 weeks ago. Remember on our old platform when we had some great producers and associate producers, and at one point we had 2 women that were working with us, and we always call them the girls.
Right.
And we'd be like, we're here in the studio with the girls, and then we got
21,
all
22 years old.
Yeah, and they loved it. They're
The girls.
the girls.
What do the girls think?
Then you get the calls.
Yep.
Why are you calling them girls? Are they
Misogynist.
girls? You know, they should be. You're here with women. I'm like, and they themselves would get on the mic and say, you know what, we're okay with it. It's fine. It's Tim and John.
But they were saying essentially that the companies need to do a better job of trying to figure out how to create a decent workplace as we become more diverse. And I thought about this. I mean, I've told these stories a million times, but, you know, my 15 years at Subaru, I mean, there wasn't a year that went by. There wasn't some sort of improper comment to me from the old HR hag that asked if I had AIDS when I first started, when I had a cold, to the CFO showing his unit to me, wanting me to snack on it in a
sauna in Finland.
So I
Love that story. Love that story.
But
And he was the one who had that little Jesus quote on his desk too. Right?
Jesus
Yeah,
all over the table.
Jesus.
all over the table and his penis out in front of you. The what I didn't understand though about the whole thing was my issue with some of this, and I did report the HR person. I went to my boss and said, here's what happened to me. I was mortified. I was
What did they
27
do?
years old. They all said, you know, that's Kate. And she was a senior level person. So they said, you know what, she's 3 levels above me, not much I can do. And Trisha Cuddy at the time, I'll give her credit, rest in peace. She said, she was furious. She said, you need to write it down and mark it down. She said it was so inappropriate.
Tricia.
This other guy, John Rothman, I worked with, was the same way. But to just finish this up quick, last year there were 27,893 sexual harassment complaints to the EEOC, but only 42 were settled or resolved.
Okay, so this never crossed my radar because from the age of 23, I've owned my own businesses, 24. My last agency, I might have been the only gay one there. No? Okay, sorry. Bob was there too. But, you know, so there was no, you know, it was, and I gay for pay. I mean, our specialty was.
So did you harass the straight people?
No.
I bet you did.
Why would you
You
harass?
can't tell somebody they look nice anymore. I had a friend that got in trouble for that.
Saying
Oh, I like
someone
that
looked
top.
nice?
Oh, you shouldn't wear that makeup. Oh, your nails look kind of pretty today. That's harassment.
Why? Because like leading? Is it leading them on? Something like that?
You can't tell people how pretty they look.
Okay.
Because then you're insulting the other girl you didn't tell was pretty.
There you go.
Zero tolerance, John. On that note,
On that note, I like you in that shirt today, Tim. It's a good looking shirt. And by the way, you like this shirt?
façonnable. I like that.
This
Is
shirt was selected for me by my straight friend Adrian.
Is he colorblind?
I think he got good taste. We
I know.
went to
I'm
the store.
teasing you because you're very proud of that shirt.
We went to the store and I'm like, look, I got some new shirts. He picks out 3 shirts that are all green. I'm like, I'm sitting in front. Yeah, I'll look like the Invisible Man.
I have a lot of green clothes
We actually talked to Garrett and John about this. We are going to do a green show.
because we're in front of a green
We're
screen.
going to do a show where we're wearing green and we'll just be heads and hands. I like this idea. I want to.
Today is Saturday, July 2nd, although
history.
you're right, and I couldn't let July 1st go by, though, because that's Canada. Canada Day,
Oh, Canada Day.
which is the birthday of our neighbor to the north, 1867, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the provinces of Quebec and Ontario formed a single country, and so they celebrate, just like we do with barbecues, parades, concerts, fireworks. This I did not know. They said, did you know that some of the greatest inventions of our time have come from Canada? Canada is responsible for light bulbs,
Paper clips and post-it notes.
telephones, light bulbs, zippers, egg cartons, snowmobiles, instant mashed potatoes, peanut butter, walkie-talkies, IMAX, Trivial Pursuit, basketball, ice hockey, and I guess Justin Bieber. I threw Justin Bieber in.
And you got to go, when you say IMAX, you mean IMAX?
Yeah, why? What else would I say?
IMACS. That's out of Apple. And iMac,
IMAX. No, that would be Apple.
There.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify and
I see.
throw you off your game. That's all I'm doing.
I know, it was good. 1850, Benjamin Lane patented a gas mask with breathing apparatus. They're kind of creepy, though, gas masks.
That's a good picture.
Ni-
That's from like World War I or something.
I don't know. 1939 at Mount Rushmore, Theodore Roosevelt's face was finally dedicated. Do you know that there's a secret door behind Lincoln's head that has all kinds of archives on the Mount Rushmore?
That's the name of a book.
What?
The Secret Door Behind Lincoln's Head. That's the name of a book. I swear to God, because it's just so a secret door behind.
Yeah, up there.
Was it because
Mount
they were
Rushmore.
storing like stuff?
We
in
keep
there,
all
or-
of our America ephemera up there. I don't know what the right word would be. All kinds of different things, archives. Yeah, and the mountain. This is what I've been told. 1962, Walmart Discount City opened in Rogers, Arkansas. It was the very first Walmart store. I posted up a couple of pictures of some of the Walmart people. You know, there's a site called Things People Wear to Walmart. If you ever get a chance to take a look at it, there's some real beauties here.
All right, wait.
There's
a site called.
it's like
Things
people in
that
Walmart
people
or people
wear.
in Walmart. Have you ever looked at it?
This is
It's
the
like
first.
Lurid Digs.
This is the first time hearing
it's
of
great.
this.
And I only just it's the tip of the iceberg here.
Now, if you happen to be watching on YouTube, but I'll describe it. It's heinous. There's a picture of a woman in one of those, and John, thank God, blew it up a bit. There's a picture of this woman on a cart, like one of those wheel. And if I'm looking at it correctly, her ass is just sitting on that cart.
Well, it's
Those
probably
pants
hot
are
out.
down.
It's probably hot out. Yeah.
Oh, but God bless the next person who rides that cart,
Sure.
right? You better not.
Well, so yeah, you got to look at this site, John. I'll bring it in. And then there's another. She's the woman in the middle is getting ready to go out in the town, and then this girl here is going to pick up her kids at the daycare with their SpongeBob dry pants or whatever, wet pants, SpongeBob.
You know, I have to say,
square pants.
I have to say,
What?
I don't have to, but I will. You're the go-to guy for crazy sites. Okay, so this crazy good sites. Okay, so what was this one called?
I think it's things people wear at Walmart or people
Things-
at Walmart.
And then there was the Kim Jong-il.
Kim Jong-il, they're looking at things.
Looking at things.
Now Kim Jong-un looks at things.
Looks and
That's a
things.
good one, yeah.
Another one called Lurid Digs.
Lurid
And that
Digs.
is not safe for work, folks.
No,
And
but it's a good one.
It's how do you even describe that? It's pictures that people take for those dating and sex apps, and all they do is they critique everything in the room.
critique
They don't
the
give a
room.
shit about the person, but
You
they
ignore
look
the
at-
person, you critique the room.
and it's hysterical.
great stuff.
Lurid Digs. Yeah. Okay.
1979, the U.S. Mint officially released the Susan B. Anthony coin in Rochester, New York. That was a huge disaster, still is. People, it was the size
Nobody
of a quarter.
knows. Nobody knows. You get it and you think it's like it's a
Yeah,
quarter.
It's like the $2 bill of coins. 1982, Larry Walters, known as Lawn Chair Larry, took flight in his homemade airship that
Oh,
consisted of a
yeah.
Sears lawn chair with 45 weather balloons that he bought at the Army surplus store.
Anybody can get a Timex ad these
So
days.
he also wanted to fly, but he was in the Air Force and his eyes were bad. So he was half in the bag apparently in his wheelchair watching the lawn chair, Sears lawn chair. They specifically said Sears lawn chair, and he was watching the planes fly by and thought I could do that. So he packed up some Miller Lights, some sandwiches, and a pellet gun, and went to the Army surplus and tied all these 45 helium balloons on his lawn chair and then tethered it to his Jeep. So the thought was his neighbors were going to cut it, and he'd fly up. He thought of maybe 30 feet
How'd he go?
or 100 feet. Shot like a cannon when they undid it. He flew up to 16,000 feet. He was freezing cold, petrified, didn't know what to do. So he had his beer, he had his Miller Lite, he had his sandwiches, and he had his pellet gun. And he was afraid if he started hitting things, he would come down too quickly. So they said he shot up like a cannon up to 16,000 feet, started interfering with the planes at LAX. He was reported by Delta and TWA pilots that he was in the airspace. And I think there's a picture of his sandwiches and stuff. But so he did finally get brave enough after he was up.
His pellet gun,
his Miller Lite, his pellet gun, his sandwiches. He said that.
Wow.
He said that he was afraid that he was going to crash land, but he was so cold after he was up there for over an hour. He started shooting at the balloons.
That's what I was going to say. That's what the pellet gun was for. That's
right. He was going to shoot balloons. He was going to have a safe landing. Yeah. Well, of course, that didn't happen. He ended up getting tangled up in the power lines and blacked out Long Beach. The power out in Long Beach. And when he finally climbed down to safety, the police arrested him. He got a $1,500 fine. He ended up going on the circuit for, he enjoyed a demand as a motivational speaker. But then, sadly, in October 1993, he hiked in the woods and killed himself. Went and shot himself at age 44. So that was 1982.
Wow, that's a terrible ending to that little.
Yeah, well, nuts. Can you imagine him shooting up? I would have loved to have seen that.
At that altitude, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's cold.
Miller Lite, sandwich, and a pellet gun.
And a pellet gun. The precursor to the movie Up.
Yeah.
Pixar.
And of course, I forgot to mention Texas.
Yeah, well, there you go. Everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Sunday, July 3rd, 1922, Fruit Garden and Home magazine was introduced. It's a good thing they changed the name, Fruit Garden. So it became Home and Gardens, Better Homes and Gardens. 1924, Clarence Birdseye founded the General Seafood Company. He's considered the founder of the modernized frozen food industry. July 4th, Independence Day, or as the Brits call it, Good Riddance Day, is Monday, July 4th. And
Good Riddance Day.
Yeah.
That's why I show a picture of the Queen looking
angry.
Sour.
Angry.
She's sour. She's sour.
I was working for a company once, and they wanted to have a meeting on July 4th. I said, well, that's our Independence Day. They said, pardon. They were British. I said, pardon. I said, that's our holiday, July 4th.
Like
Said,
they
yes.
didn't know.
And they said, oh, we call that Good Riddance Day.
Yeah, well.
Then 1960, the 50-star U.S. flag made its debut. A Boy Scout designed it. He actually did it as a project when he was a young kid in school in Ohio, and the teacher made fun of him because they only had 48 stars at the time. So he designed a 50-star flag because he was reading that Hawaii and Alaska were going to be states. The teacher just about failed him, gave him a B-, told me he had the wrong amount of stars on the flag. And so he was upset with his grades. So the teacher said, well, if you can get the government to change it, then I'll change your grade. So lo and behold, 2 years later, he gets a call from Dwight D. Eisenhower. He sent the flag to the White House, and they used his design for the 50-star flag, this Boy Scout in 1960.
I love that.
His name was Bob Heft. He also designed a 51-state flag way back in 1958 when he thought we might add Puerto Rico as a state. So that was the American flag. So what's the week in science?
It's time. Hey, kids, it's time for the knowing and the doing part of the show, right? The week in science.
Is that done on an iPad or is that done on paper today?
It's done on modern equipment like an iPad. I could print it out.
Paper don't break now.
Paper don't break, pencil don't break, and paper don't break. All right, so July 3rd, the day before our national independence, what was it, Good Riddance Day? The day before Good Riddance Day, foam rubber was invented at the Dunlop Latex Development Laboratories in Birmingham. British scientist E.A. Murphy whipped up the first batch in 1929 using an ordinary kitchen mixer to froth natural latex rubber. His colleagues were unimpressed until they sat on it.
Wow.
Within 5 years, it was 5 years, on motorcycle seats, London bus seats, Shakespeare Memorial Theater seats, and eventually in mattresses. So foam, you have
What
this.
year was that?
1929.
Wow.
Foam rubber. On July 4th, I don't know if you remember this at all. I do. NASA timed it perfectly. The Mars Pathfinder Mars mission entered orbit and dropped its payload into the Martian atmosphere on 1997, July 4th. And it was a two-part spacecraft. So the Pathfinder was this thing that went through the atmosphere, had these bags that blew up, and it bounced, it landed, and then it opened up, and out came that little
Robot
guy.
car.
And that was the Sojourner, a little wheeled rover. I don't know how it doesn't.
Didn't it get stuck on a rock right away?
The Sojourner did not get very far, if I'm not mistaken. It did get stuck or something. There was something about that. It doesn't say it in here.
Battery's drained. The trip is so long to get there.
Well, it's a solar panel thing, but there is a picture of the surface of Mars, which I just think that's amazing. That's Mars. I mean, it's
Looks like North Dakota. Or Afghanistan. Doesn't it?
minus that red tinge in the sky, yeah. And then I thought this was a strange one. I've often been fascinated by this in case someone has an accident or something. But on July 7th, the first successful thumb replantation was done.
Thumb?
Thumb. It was 1965, and it was accomplished by Shigeo Komatatsu and Susumi Tamai. And basically, it was a feat of technology that could only be made possible by certain surgical instruments that were created to allow them to actually reattach blood vessels and nerves. And up until that time, they never had the fine instruments to do that.
Where'd they get the thumb from?
It was a guy that actually had an accident, and the thumb got, like, lobbed off.
So they sewed it back on?
It was a replantation, yeah.
Wow.
And that happened in the orthopedic clinic of Nara.
I thought maybe it was his toe,
That nail looked kind of...
and then that would stink.
The week in science has now become the butt of all jokes.
I got a thumb on my
I thought that
finger.
was his thumb they put
looked
back
like a
on his
thumb.
hand. All right.
All right, I mean, it looked like a toe, didn't it?
So the learning portion's over, kids. I can see that we did not learn anything today.
No, we learned about foam.
We learned about foam rubber.
Rubber
yeah.
and rubber car.
And about the Sojourner and the Pathfinder and the putting the toe back on someone's hand. And then what comes out of your mouth? I bet that's going to stink. Like all feet stink, right?
They don't all stink. Do your feet stink?
No.
No, you and I are the only two on the planet that don't. The business birthdays, there's two of them. Born July 2nd, Dave Thomas.
Wendy's.
He died in 2002 at 69. The founder of Wendy's Hamburgers, we all know him. One of my favorite commercials. He starred in over 800 of their commercials, despite the fact that the agency didn't want him. The ad agency didn't want him to star because
I think
they
it
thought,
made that brand, right?
well, they thought he was too folksy and stiff, but they ended up. He insisted on doing it, doing the commercials, and they said he achieved levels. Wildly popular levels to that of the campaign in '84, the "Where's the Beef" with that Clara.
The beef.
Where's the Beef? Which
Clara
I love
Peller.
that.
Clara
love that
Peller.
commercial. And the other one we love is that Soviet fashion show that Wendy's did. Remember that?
Swimwear, evening wear, and they're all wearing
All
that
the
one
gray smock. And
Yeah,
they
next
we'll
time,
we'll have to play that. I'll put that
Well,
on the Facebook page.
or we'll bring it for our next time, and we'll have John cue it up. It's a fun commercial.
With the and then so Wendy's is still number 3, but he had 90% recognition with Americans. I can't
amazing?
believe that. That's a huge
and
number.
that disproves his agency's advice.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
he should have been doing that.
Don't
Yeah.
believe the agency all the time.
Good point.
Also celebrating on July 2nd is Jay Sarner, or Sarno. He was an American business entrepreneur who owned several high-profile hotels. He was the founder of Caesar's Palace and Circus in Las Vegas.
We were just gonna. That was the one that you don't want to get trapped in.
Yeah, we just shit canned. The
Caesars, though, not a bad place.
no, well, they said he wanted a hotel that's had a European-sounding name. So in 1964, he built Caesars. And what was unique about what he did was you had to go through the casino to get to all the amenities.
Oh.
Which we all know from Las Vegas. That's what
Now
happens.
it's like a mouse. It's like a roach motel. You
Right.
get stuck on that thing. You can't get to the. Yeah.
Then he developed Circus, which really was a circus, and it was not a hotel, but it was a casino. And his thought was, if people brought kids, the kids would spend money at Circus because they couldn't spend it in the casino, and
While
the
the
parents
parents
could play the slots.
gambled their education.
So right,
away, yeah.
but they ended up finding out he got the money from the mob, so he lost his license for the casinos, as they say in Philly, and he was on his way to develop a new hotel called the Grandissimo when he died. He ended up dying at Caesars on a gambling binge when he was out there in 1984. So Sarno was happy birthday to Jay Sarno. So that's the
There you go.
weeks and birthdays.
And the kind of week in science, which has now become the punching bag of the show. I have to up my game on.
The punching bag of the show. It's a good thing.
Hey, friends, it's the Focus Group. I'm John Nash, joined by my good friend Tim Bennett. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to be welcoming Eugene Cornelius Jr. from the Small Business Administration to the show, so stay with us.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the newly redesigned Volkswagen Passat. Give your family time a serious upgrade. Visit VW.com to learn more.
Now, back to the Focus Group with Tim and John.
Glamour today is nothing but a tight skirt, loose hips, and wet lips.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Make it work. Make it work. Make it work.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host John Nash. We're all business except when we're not. We are excited today to have joining us, as promised, Eugene Cornelius with the Small Business Administration. And Eugene is Deputy Associate Administrator for the Office of Operations for the U.S. Small Business Administration. So I will always say that typical of government, there's lots of titles, but a good organization nonetheless. The great thing about Eugene is he's the architect of LGBT inclusion in the federal government, providing equal access to all entrepreneurs. So Eugene, welcome to the Focus Group.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. So we have you joining us by phone here on the Focus Group, and as I said, we were talking earlier before you came on, and the SBA or the Small Business Administration might not be on everybody's radar in terms of all the mission and the history that you guys have. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about what the SBA is?
Well, the SBA is a federal government program. Institution which delivers to the small business community three major components. One is access to capital. We put out over $28 billion in guarantees to small businesses to help them start and grow their businesses. In addition to that, we oversee all 24 agencies as far as their contract and procurement for small business participation, which the government spends over $5 billion in goods and services every year. We're earmarked to have a goal of 23% going to small businesses, and we make sure that small businesses have an opportunity to do that through our business development programs. And third, we give counseling and technical assistance to small businesses so that they can compete in the marketplace, whether they're competing domestically or internationally, and so that they can compete not only for government contracts, for private sector contracts, and develop their businesses.
Wow.
Hey, Eugene, this is John. It's a pleasure to have you join us, and I'm fascinated by what you're here to talk to us today about, because I used to own two dedicated ad agencies that our goal was to work with major corporations in their outreach efforts to the LGBT community. And in the past, an agency such as mine, while I might have thought myself as a minority agency, we could never really approach a civic body like a city or state government or even the federal level to bid on contracts because we were not a recognized minority category. But you guys have created something as an outreach of what Obama was doing with the federal agencies to look at the LGBT community, and it's called Many Faces, One Dream. Did I get that right?
That's correct. And let me tell you, the president called us, President Obama called to all the federal governments and said, we need to go into places that we traditionally don't go and to places that are underserved that we know can have some impact on the economy. And you're right. The gay and lesbian transgender community was not one that typically the federal government would look at as a minority status. However, the name itself, Many Faces, One Dream, is about that because the one dream is entrepreneurship, ownership. And we know that 2/3 of all businesses hiring in the last 5 years was created by small businesses. We also know that small businesses tend to hire people who look like them. So if we're going to move the needle in the LGBT community, we need to create entrepreneurship in the LGBT community. Having said that, the other part of Many Faces, One Dream, the Many Faces part, is our community, the gay and lesbian, transgender, bisexual community, is made up of every minority. We include African Americans, Hispanic, Asian, Native Americans, disabled, veterans, women, all those minority categories that are recognized by the federal government in Illinois are part of the gay and lesbian, transgender, bisexual community.
How Eugene, when did President Obama have this mission or missive? I feel like I was unaware of it, and it's such a big thing. When did it happen?
It has always been a part of the president's mainstay. It was not a declaration that came out under executive order or anything. The president has spoken, even as a candidate and as the official president, that he was going to reach out to the gay and lesbian transgender community, and that he wanted us as the federal government to move forward in capturing and making sure that our services was rendered to that community. What he was saying, in essence, as the LGBT community is a liable tax-paying citizen, they have the rights as all citizens to the federal programs, and they have paid for our services, and we need to reach out to them and market to them so that they know our programs and services are available to them. And I think he's right.
Are you guys, are you appointed by, or is the leadership at SBA appointed by the administration? Or
yes.
Okay.
Our administrator, Maria Contreras-Sweet, who completely supports this, is the cabinet level official appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. And she is a trailblazer in making sure that we move the needle in this agenda that the president has set forth.
Wow.
Now, Eugene, in this Many Faces, One Dream, this concept, and before we were on the air today, Tim was talking to me about the SBA, and just as we were researching your agency and its mission and just all the interesting stuff it does, we were both frankly shocked by how many companies, well-known companies, big companies that have used the SBA as a resource and as a way to build those companies and to get a small business to be a large business. But you're looking at Many Faces and One Dream as kind of a 3-pillar program. And I think you kind of talked to a very fascinating aspect of pillar number 1, which I'm reading here. It says building the dream, and that's where you're looking at all these different individuals who happen to be LGBT. And you touched on it earlier: Asian, Latino, Black, and it could be LGBT. But the LGBT community is so interestingly diverse. And Tim used to always say that we were the granddaddy of all minorities, right? Because we cut across all channels. So if someone was looking to start a relationship with the SBA, or they're looking to start a business, what do you think? And if they are in the LGBT community, does it make sense for them to open a dialogue in that way, or is it better if it was an Asian American to say, well, you know what I'm getting at? Like, it seems like you've opened up another cool way of,
Right. I hear you loud and clear, but we don't pick among our children. Everyone is a U.S. taxpayer, and everyone is viable. What I want to make clear in Many Faces, One Dream is that this community, the LGBT community, understands that they have every right and every privilege that any other minority has to our programs and services. And I want them to this is an introduction to them to the federal government, that they are worthy of everything that we give to any minority group or any U.S. citizen. So whether they come to us as a gay or lesbian or transgender person, or they come to us as one of their minority groups, I don't think it matters. What matters is that they know that they're comfortable coming to us in any way they choose, in any way they want to identify, and that their total identity is important to us. And so what we're doing, and you mentioned the first pillow, which is Many Faces, One Dream. The second pillow, which is the teaming with the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, because we want to grow our existing businesses in the LGBT community so that we make sure that with that growth, we reduce unemployment in that community, and we move the transgender community from the underground employment to formalized employment, which deals with some of our social issues in that community. So this, and the purpose of SBA and the mission of SBA since 1953, signed into law, was to create jobs. And no better way to create jobs is through entrepreneurship in our community, because, like I said, people tend to hire people who look and act like them.
Themselves, yeah.
You know,
So that's the second part. The third part of that pillow, which is going into the communities, as I mentioned, the social ills. Our community has not really focused on economic development. We're focusing on our rights, our right to marry, our right to love who we want to love, our right to be engaged, our right to be employed. And we have social ills that have been affected by our lack of participation in that. So when we look at our suicide rates and everything else, our community tends to come to our community centers for help and assistance. I want to reach out to those community service centers and give them an intro to SBA's products and services, and go in and get people educated to our programs and services so they could take advantage of it. And if not become an entrepreneur, develop the workforce for entrepreneurs within our community to reduce the unemployment, to reduce suicide rates, to give our youth mentors and examples of what they can and could be, and their right as taxpayer citizens, as I say again, to explore any product and service we have.
We're speaking with Eugene Cornelius, who's the Deputy Associate Administrator at the Small Business Administration here on the Focus Group. It's funny to hear you go through the three pillars, and as you were saying it, I thought, and you mentioned marriage, and John has often said, we were, as the LGBT community, always the other. We always felt like we were not necessarily, we may have paid taxes, but didn't, second-class citizens, and could never participate fully in some of the programs. And that's why I'm so kind of floored by this, because John and I both looked at each other and said, I don't know how this sort of bypassed us. And I think what the president has done and what you guys have done there is remarkable. I'm wondering, in the unlikely event that we had a new administration that was not as friendly perhaps to the LGBT community, would these programs go away, or do you think they're set?
Well, that is an interesting thing. I am not a political appointee of the president. I'm a career with the senior executive within the federal government, and I've created this through the career workplace. So the political atmosphere may change, but these programs are being created and the foundation is being built within SBA, and it will be difficult, if not almost impossible, to go back retroactively. And being a member of the gay and lesbian transgender community as an African American, sitting here at the top, I would find it hard for them to fight me.
Right. Well, good. We're glad you're there.
Hey, Eugene,
listen, too many people have died for my right to be here, from Stonewall to California and Harvey Milk. Too many people have died for my right to sit here, and for me not to advance economic development in our community at this point would be a spit on every one of their graves, and I will not do it no matter who's in the presidency.
Well, I say hear to that,
yeah,
Eugene. They're very nice. Nicely said. When it comes to the NGLCC, which for our listeners is the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, One of the impediments I think that small businesses often face in dealing with possibly an NGLCC or an SBA is something called the certification process.
Correct.
And one thing that I note that you guys are making, that you and have identified as a key issue here is you are stepping up to say, we're going to help you with that certification process. In many cases, what does that often entail for a small business? Is it simply a paperwork thing, or are they just trying to figure out some information that you may have that they don't?
The certification, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce works with the Fortune 500 companies across the country, and they, through their supplier diversity, are recognizing the gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual firms as part of their diversity within. This certification gives them recognition and gives them the playground in which to compete for those services. What SBA is saying is, though that is the private sector and that's not the federal government, we need the advocacy. When we started with this partnership with the Chamber, they had less than 150 certified LGBT firms in their portfolio. We are now approaching 1,000. And what SBA has done is said, okay, you have the certification. We have the counseling and the technical assistance to help people with their business plans, to help them get certified and help them get that number up. And when we get that number up, then we can advocate as far as the federal government for saying that here is the LGBT community and this is what it represents. Right now, we have 1.4 million LGBT firms in America that we are aware of. Only 1,000 of them are certified. If I am to move the needle to get LGBT businesses and firms recognizing their certification in the federal government, I need to have a good number of businesses that are certified in order to say, we are visible, we are here, we need the right to participate, you need to open this door.
What, when John mentioned, I'm trying to phrase the question, but so if there's a mass that's certified LGBT, do you foresee where then the LGBT companies will be accepted the same way that a minority-owned or a woman's owned business is? Because right now, I don't think companies, they don't necessarily carve out money for LGBT-owned companies, but they will do it for women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses.
Right. I do believe that is my hope. I do believe that we are moving there. I think we have a lot of the Fortune 500 organizations that are now recognizing through the chambers and the chamber's efforts, because the chamber has been at this for 10 to 11 years. They are doing that. Now, there was never any certification. There was certifications at the local level and at the federal level, as you pointed out, for minorities, but there was never one for the LGBT community. Well, the chamber created it. And now that the chamber has created that model, what SBA is doing is saying, okay, here's a model that we can use. Let's get the numbers up and let's get the advocacy moving that we can support, that we should be able to open this up to the LGBT community, because we have suffered through social ills. And one of the things about these certification programs is not only are they representative of minorities, but they are saying socially disadvantaged groups. Well, no one could tell me the LGBT community is not a socially disadvantaged group. I mean, just look at what happened in Orlando.
Yeah, good point, Eugene. This is John again, and as I'm listening to you lay out all this incredible information, and it's actionable. It's great. When Tim and I were talking earlier about the SBA more broadly and all the resources you guys have, I'm just going to throw out a thought and say one of the challenges you guys probably face on a daily or weekly basis is getting the word out that you even have these programs. Is that true?
That is very true. I think we're the best kept secret in government.
Especially with all that loan money sloshing around. That's
Right. Well, not only do we have $28 billion in loan money, we have another $23 billion in investment equity lending going on. And so we have quite a number. Though we're a small agency, we have quite an impact on the gross national product and the economy. And I think that our community doesn't typically look at government. And so why wouldn't I create something that opens the door and introduces them to the government and their ability? You know, we pay for this, so why not use it? These services are free. We can take you from writing a business plan or expanding your businesses or moving into different markets across the United States and globally. SBA can do it, but our community doesn't know that that's available to them. And the more entrepreneurs we create in the LGBT community, the more we increase employment in our community, and the more we have role models for our young people who know they have options and they have visions and they have hope and aspirations, and they're not reducing themselves to suicide, drugs, and all the social ills that we deal with because they don't feel they have that.
That's really well said, Eugene, and I think you really, really nailed the point. And I completely agree with you on this one, that we as a community do not look to the government as a resource or a solution for anything, because I don't want to say it's been antagonistic, but a laissez-faire kind of we don't really care attitude is more like what I associate with it.
Yeah, it has been. And me being the top gay boy here, I'm not going to sit here and let that happen.
So for any of our listeners, if they wanted to take advantage of the services or explore what there was to offer, would they go to sba.gov?
Well, they can, but we created something even better for them.
Okay.
They can go to LGBT@sba.gov. It's for them specifically, and it will take them through and give them a direct person to talk to that's familiar with the sensitivities of our community and can help them and guide them through.
So it's lgbt@sba.gov.
Correct.
And do you have offices in every state?
We have offices in all 50 states and U.S. territories, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands and the American Samoa. We have 68 district offices, 10 regional offices, and a bunch of satellite offices. If you go to sba.gov and type in your zip code, it will give you the local district office, and you can find the person and counselor that is working for you. Now, fortunately, I oversee all those offices, and so our 68 district offices, district directors, have a goal to reach out to the gay and lesbian transgender community, and they are looking for you to reach out to them.
I'm sitting here, my mind's spinning. I'm thinking I'm going to invent. I got to get going on as I said, I used to own 2 agencies in the past, and we own a production company now. We do our show. I think this is an incredible resource, Eugene. I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing the Many Faces One Dream program. LGBT@sba.gov. We've been talking to Eugene Cornelius Jr. So there's a senior floating around somewhere.
Yeah.
He's the Deputy Associate Administrator, Office of Field Operations, U.S. Small Business Administration. I urge everybody to check this out because as Tim and I were doing our research to talk to Eugene today, we were both blown away by SBA's scope. Yeah. And a lot of things we never knew about, and this just adds a whole new layer. We're going to have you back because this is right up our alley for what we do. So I hope you're going to be free someday to come back with those 68 offices
to manage. Help you get the word out.
We're going to help you get the word out.
Listen, I would count on you because I think this is major for our community. But I would like to say that I have on my staff Mark Gibson, who is my LGBT National Court Outreach Director, and I also have David Perry, who are 2 key people on my team whose job is solely to reach out to our community and to bring them in and to tell them about these 3 pillars under Many Faces One Dream. And I tell you that I'm open to come and talk to you and your audience anytime you wish and available, because I don't think we should keep this as a well-kept secret.
No. Pandora's box, the lid's open. The SBA is going to be making loans like you won't believe. We're going to be loan generators.
Bankrupt the SBA.
Hey, Eugene, I want to thank you again for joining us here on the Focus Group, and have a wonderful week and an upcoming holiday, and you're going to be back. So, folks, it's the Focus Group with John Nash and Tim Bennett. We're going to take a very quick break, and when we return, some shop talk. So stay with us.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the Volkswagen Golf Sport Wagon. Turbo up front, wagon in the back. Visit VW.com to learn more.
You're listening to the Focus Group
I said to my girlfriend just the other day, monsters are interesting, I said.
with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
And I'll bet you meet a lot of interesting people, too.
You like it?
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We're all business except when we're not. Be sure to follow along with our show during the week at focusgroupradio.com. We'll give you all the information on all the various platforms where we're available and all of our social media, which is branded Focus Group Radio, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or what is your finger up for?
SLR.
SLR. Well, I didn't get there yet.
Okay.
Subscribe to us, like us, or rate us
At iTunes.
at iTunes. Why is that what it has to
It's
be?
specifically at iTunes, yeah.
Oh, okay. So now the rules have changed since we've gone to break. Hey, we want to thank Eugene Cornelius Jr. from the Small Business Administration that joined us, and we really do mean it. The SBA. If you go to SBA.gov or LGBT at SBA.gov, there's lots of resources out there. If you're a small business or an LGBT-owned business, they're there to help you, and it's a really cool thing.
Tim, I got to tell you, my mind, I am
racing?
furiously thinking about businesses to start. And here's what I said to Tim at the break. I don't mind the word loan, but I like the word grant. Loans need to be repaid. Grants are just kind of spent.
You sound like Judge Judy.
Really?
Is it
Okay.
a loan, or did you borrow?
Did you borrow?
Did you
Yeah,
borrow,
she does
or
that a lot.
or was it a gift?
I have a piece of paper, man. You sit down and shut up. I don't want to talk to you
Was
right
it a
now.
gift? Right.
I love Judge Judy.
Born at night, but not last night. It says. So
But
shop.
seriously, this grant loan thing,
Well, we'll see how you play that off. You're the talker.
I really enjoyed that though. And anyway, okay, so
So shop talk today. John
Tim informed me this is a wonky topic.
John had picked this one, and I initially, after the first read, liked it, and then after I really finally read it, I realized it came from Nash's intellectual side of his head. Which
is my whole head. It's not like
I
one
can't
side of
believe
it.
you sat and read this whole thing. It talks about ancient history with Hobby and where Hobby developed from. It's one of these, like a New Yorker article. You know me, I'm People Magazine. You're New Yorker, so
Learning every day.
so I read the 1st little paragraph.
You're worse than People. You're like BuzzFeed.
So I read the
with a
first
list and a
paragraph
picture
and
or
I thought,
something.
oh, this is great. And then when it got into, how Hobby was developed and conspicuous
okay,
consumption
all
came out,
right, all
I said, boy, this is a wonky piece for Nash.
So the thinking behind the selection of this piece
Yeah.
was the headline, if you want to be a better person, find something to do outside of work. And the idea is that, and he gave a lot of history about hobbies and how it used to be the domain of the rich because the working class had no time on their hands to possibly develop a hobby. But as industrialization occurred, the notion of free time actually became something we would have to manage and do something with. Maybe. Some people didn't have to worry about it. Maybe when you're not working, you're not working. But
Thorsten Veblen wrote The Theory of the Leisure Class, an economic study of institutions, and came up with, or famously coined the phrase, conspicuous consumption. And then I was established in pre-industrial societies where the aristocracy chose economically unproductive professions. I was like, oh my gosh. The first paragraph was bird watching.
well, that was the
And then I'm like, oh, bird watching. So John sends it to me, and I said, oh, I love bird watch. It's going to be great. And the headline's great. If you want to be a better person, find something to do outside of work. I said, this is perfect for John. He's got lots of hobbies. And then I read this piece.
I'm amazed that you that you
I
took nothing of what I took out of this?
What did you take out of it?
That it's very
That someone
important.
coined the phrase conspicuous consumption, and that the industrialized world now had all this leisure time because technology freed up time from farming and hunting, and you were able to
So
do
here,
hobbies.
the one sentence that I think is important. You're not going to batter me down on this one. The one sentence that I think is really important is hobbies are of central importance to our psychological well-being. Do you have a hobby?
Drinking wine. Right now, that's my hobby.
By the way, John, in our tech John, is a Malbec fan. Are you?
No, I don't like that.
Is that too?
Some people like it. It's all what you taste.
You're a Cabernet. You're cab.
I like a cab, and
Okay. All right, so.
No, you have. What's your hobby?
Well, I want to say.
I know what you're going to say, and it's going to say no in here.
What, my animation work?
No, cycling.
No, that's not a hobby.
So what is that?
Cycling is a fitness thing. I mean, I
they
get a lot of.
That's what they said when something becomes, and that was one of the lines I took out here. When they said when it goes from being something you enjoy and useless to something that becomes, I've got to do this, I've got to get up and do it. You become obsessive about the workout part of it to get work done.
Well,
It's not a hobby.
the other thing one thing I was fascinated by with this one was I was thinking of you and me a lot when I read this, because when I began taking my classes in animation, your first question was, "What are you going to do with it?"
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? Where's
Like a
where
dolly
is that
dance?
going to lead to? What's that going to happen? And make a ball bounce like
Ball
now.
bounce, bow, bow, make smoke come out of the chimney.
So yeah. There's no hope for intellectual savior on the focus group. We're all business, except when we're usually not.
I
right?
will say, though, I did highlight the same line you did. Hobbies are of central importance to our physiological well-being. So I did
Psychological.
What did I say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Physiological would be the body. Psychological is the mind.
Well, I was schooled.
Yes, you were, and if you don't careful, you're going to get schooled a lot more. I'm being really nice about this, but so really, let's not let you off the hot seat here. If you're not drinking wine,
Yeah.
what would you want to be doing with your time? So in the article, they mentioned, and I thought about this one because of Bob. And remember how Bob used to collect everything Liberace?
Right.
Well, apparently, that is something. The collection mania is often in prepubescent boys and males over 40. So if you're prepubescent, you collect all 5, or if you're over 40, you're doing.
I had a boss that collected all crazy stuff, and he was an older guy.
But you for instance, you collect those crazy Japanese clocks that talk.
But I would not call that a hobby, and that's what I was.
Well, no, you don't look to find it either. So it's not like you go, oh, we're going to go looking for Japanese clocks, right?
No. So, but I, this. So, if the article was to make me think about that, I did. So you accomplished that goal. But I was trying to think what my hobby was.
Well, you probably thought, God damn, I can't believe I got sucked in by a headline of a bird-watching paragraph.
But you could say, I'm not a bird watcher like this guy is. He's a fanatic. And then there's these people that mark down the birds. Like my grandmother had a note by the door, and she would check off whenever she saw a bird.
Finch.
Yeah.
It's barn sparrow.
I will say, and this is weird, I thought this was odd. I wrote in the margin, I used to sneak away, and I don't think this is a hobby, though, but I used to, when I lived in Chicago, I used to sneak away to the Lincoln Park Zoo, and I'd spend half a day at the gorilla cage watching the gorillas. But I don't think that's
fascinating.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a hobby. Everybody's laughing in the audience. I don't think that's a hobby.
Well, did you watch him do
It's
everything?
weird. Somebody just said I was weird.
Did you watch him do everything?
Well, I was fascinated about eating time. Because of the way they separated food and who ate. They collected all the sweet stuff first, and then they put it aside, and they would eat just like we do.
So you're not that behavior is no different than scientists who study animal behavior.
Right, but I wouldn't say that's a hobby. Would gardening be a hobby?
Yeah.
I don't garden. I'd like to. Is cleaning a hobby? I don't do that either.
That's an obsession. That's an obsession. Cleaning is an obsession.
So your only hobby, would you say, is animation?
Oh no! I love to read.
Is that a hobby?
Yeah, I think many people nowadays would call reading for pleasure a hobby because it's. I don't know. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Animation, sketching. I like to draw. That's a hobby, right?
Like soup.
I only had the soup because I read an article that you shouldn't eat things that get stuck in your teeth before going on camera because we look great on camera.
Where did you read that?
I read it in a magazine.
Somebody wrote about what you eat before you go
It
on
was an
camera.
interview with a celebrity, and they asked her what she ate during the day, and she said, "Well, if I'm on camera, I always eat broth or soup, so that nothing gets stuck in her teeth." That's foresight, boy. All right, so this hoped-for intellectual journey on why hobbies are important and why we should cultivate them and leave them as hobbies has ended up in a ditch.
No. Listen, I highlighted what you pulled out, so I pulled out the
Okay.
right thing. It did make me think about hobbies, which I feel like I'm not a whole person because I need to come up with a hobby for the next show.
No. I'll end it by saying they inform your life in funny ways, like the animation work that I'm doing and the classwork I'm doing. It's just a different way of thinking. I'm being exposed to a whole fun, different way of solving problems, visual storytelling, the whole bit.
Right.
And so I don't know. It may end up being something of a career someday, maybe not. Maybe it's just something I'll do for pleasure. But it does kind of creep into the other areas of my life and make them a little bit better. So.
But if you were, right, and with the animation, if for you it was, you like the art form or you went,
Love the art
when we
form.
traveled, you wanted to visit a museum or you read books on it, then it does become more of a hobby than just doing.
Yeah.
But I think that part's important about it. And but I need to. I really did question myself about this because I thought if you mentor somebody, you go to the gym, all those other things that people say they do.
I call
those aren't
those
really.
I
they're
call
not
it a hobby. You spend a lot of good time dealing with a lot of professionals and people who seek your advice, and
That's not a hobby, right?
I call it a hobby because you're helping people. You're really elevating someone's conversation about career and business. So I don't know.
Well, I wanted to tease you about it. 'Cause
All right. Well, yeah. Between the week in science and a whole bunch of other things, I'm like, skinned alive. All right.
That's the show.
Time to wrap up, folks. Thank you for joining us today. Again, the acronym is SLR at iTunes. Subscribe, like, and rate. You could also find our show on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and of course on YouTube. Have yourself some fun and watch the YouTube thing because you'll see all the fun graphics that Tim and I find to use during the broadcast. Big thank you to Volkswagen of America for supporting our show. They've been with us for 7 years now. We're looking forward to an upcoming road trip that we're taking in their new Golf Sport Wagon All-Track. And it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, and we're really looking forward to being in that. So, hey, join us next week, and we're back on the air. And we're going to have a special every Wednesday we have something going on. That might be a flashback Wednesday, come to think of it. Oh, maybe it's the Jelly Belly show. Anyway, every Wednesday we have something beyond the Saturday show. Stay with us, and SLR, subscribe, like, rate. Bye-bye.
Join the focus group on all forms of social media. It's easy. And like good marketers, our branding is uniform across all platforms. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope at Focus Group Radio. Again, join the conversation across all of our social media platforms at Focus Group Radio.